At first glance, he looked like the kind of man you'd trust to water your plants while you were away. A polite smile, a quiet demeanor, the kind of neighbor who waved at the mailman, kept his grass neatly trimmed, and minded his own business. But under that manicured lawn, just a few feet beneath the swing sets, the garden beds, and even the barbecue grill, lay something so grotesque, so nightmarish, that police officers would later call it a suburban cemetery of horror. 29 bodies, all buried in his backyard. And for decades, no one knew. You're probably thinking, how is that even possible? How can someone kill that many times, hide the evidence in plain sight, and still pass as just another harmless neighbor? This is the story of Harold Finney, a man whose entire life was a mask. A man who taught the world that the scariest monsters don't lurk in abandoned houses or dark alleys. They live right next door. It all began with a smell. In the summer of 1997, neighbors on Oakwood Lane started complaining about a strange odor drifting through the cul-de-sac. At first, people blamed it on sewer lines or maybe a dead raccoon, but the stench didn't go away. It grew stronger. It seeped into living rooms, into car vents, into the minds of everyone who lived there, and yet no one connected the dots, because Harold, the quiet balding man at number 42, always had an explanation. "Oh, it's fertilizer," he'd laugh softly, "working on my garden again." And somehow everyone believed him. But the truth was far darker. Every time that smell hit the air, it meant another victim was decomposing under Harold's roses. So who were these victims? That's the part that still keeps investigators awake at night. Harold wasn't targeting strangers at random. He wasn't luring drifters or hitchhikers. His victims were people he knew, people who trusted him. Former girlfriends, neighbors, even one of his co-workers. Each of them vanished, one by one, over the span of 27 years. And every time someone disappeared, Harold would show up at community searches. He'd shake hands with grieving parents. He even hosted a barbecue the same week a teenage girl was reported missing, while her body was literally beneath the grill where he flipped burgers. Think about that for a moment. He fed people on top of the grave. Here's the part that twists your stomach. Harold wasn't sloppy. He wasn't the kind of killer who got careless and left bloody footprints. He was meticulous, calculated, cold. He had rules. Rule number 1, never kill anyone too close together. Space it out. Rule number 2, always pick someone society won't look for too hard. Rule number 3, always bury them deep enough to plant something beautiful on top. Roses, tulips, even apple trees. His backyard looked like a postcard from the suburbs. Parents brought their children to admire his garden, not knowing that beneath the roots lay human skeletons. The question that still haunts this case is simple. How did no one notice for so long? The answer is chilling. Harold was smart. He studied people. He knew how to disarm suspicion with kindness. If you raised an eyebrow, he'd invite you over for pie. If you wondered about the smell, he'd offer to fix your gutter. He was always helpful, always smiling, always normal. But the mask began to slip in 2002. That year, a woman named Claire Monroe, Harold A.'s new girlfriend, confided to her sister that Harold had a locked shed in his backyard. He never let her inside. She thought maybe he was hiding pornography or another woman. But then one night, she swore she saw him carrying something heavy, wrapped in a tarp, out of his car and into the shed. She tried to ask. He just smiled. A week later, Claire vanished. Her car was found abandoned at a bus station. Police assumed she ran away, but she didn't run. She never made it past Harold's backyard. If this case already has you hooked, hit subscribe, because the next twist is insane. For years, Harold got away with it. Families searched, flyers went up, candlelight vigils were held, but he stayed invisible, protected by the very image he had created, the harmless neighbor, until one day in 2011, when a dog dug too deep. A family who had just moved next door let their German shepherd wander near Harold's fence. The dog began clawing at the dirt. By the time its owner pulled it back, a human femur was sticking out of the soil. Police were called immediately. But Harold? He played it cool. He told officers the bone must have been left from old livestock, back when the land was a farm. And incredibly, they believed him. The bone was bagged, sent to a lab, and filed under inconclusive. Harold skated free, again. But the cracks in his mask were widening. Over the next few years, whispers grew louder. People who once trusted Harold now kept their distance. Kids avoided his yard. Even the mailman admitted feeling uneasy. But suspicion isn't evidence, and without evidence, police can't act. It wasn't until 2019, 42 years after his first suspected victim, that the truth finally clawed its way out. That year, Harold was admitted to the hospital after suffering a massive stroke. Doctors believed he wouldn't survive. And in those final hours, something inside him broke. He asked to see a priest. But instead of confessing sins in private, Harold did something different. He smirked and said, "You'll never find them all." The nurse wrote it down. Authorities were notified, and when investigators finally searched his property with modern forensic tools, ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, they uncovered the impossible. 29 human bodies, layer after layer, some stacked, some individually wrapped, men, women, teenagers, all reduced to bones, hidden beneath his beautiful garden. Here's the part that will make you lose sleep tonight. Harold never faced justice. He died in the hospital just hours before the first body was dug up. He never stood trial, never explained his motives, never answered the one question everyone still asks: why? Some believe Harold was a sexual sadist. Others think he enjoyed the thrill of power, the godlike act of deciding who lived and who vanished. But the truth? We'll never know. His secret died with him. And yet, one chilling mystery remains. Police identified most of the victims, but not all. 4 bodies are still unknown. No missing person reports match their DNA, which means there are families out there who may never even know their loved ones ended up in Harold's yard. Think about that. Somewhere, someone still sets a dinner table for the person who will never come home because their neighbor buried them like trash. So what do we learn from this case? That evil doesn't always wear a mask of rage. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it waves hello. Sometimes it borrows your ladder and thanks you politely. Harold Finney proved that the most terrifying killers aren't monsters in the shadows. They're the people living right next door. And if you think this case was bad, wait until you hear about the woman who vanished from her own wedding. You watched until the end. Now you can't unhear this. Subscribe for more stories that will haunt you.